Hey, let's have a look at who were the riders with the biggest comeback seasons in 2024. This year saw riders tackling setbacks head-on, whether through a change in teams, recovery from physical challenges, or adapting to different demands within the peloton. Their efforts highlight how cycling continually tests both the physical and mental limits of those competing at the highest level. First rider is Thalita de Jong. The biggest comeback year was hers, easily a career year for the Dutch former cyclocross world champion. She hasn't looked this good on the road since her Rabo Liv era, which was at least 8 years ago. After taking a long time to take her first win of 2024, she would eventually take 4 of them, with a previous high in a season, only 2 wins back in 2015 and 2016. 2 stage wins in the GC at the Tour de l'Ardèche was arguably the peak. There were also Women's World Tour top 10s at Omloop Nieuwsblad, Tour de France Femmes, Itzulia and Gent-Wevelgem. Being the outright leader on the Lotto Destiny Ladies team opened things up for her after not quite getting the same shouts at Liv previously. Once the results started, it all just snowballed from there, with De Jong finishing in every position from 1st to 10th over the course of the season. It's eventually turned into a Women's World Tour transfer to Human Powered Health for 2025. Kristen Faulkner hasn't been racing long, but the 2023 season was one to forget after a big chunk of it was taken away thanks to a car driver hitting her back home in America whilst training. The only highlight of the spring period was also taken away from her that year, with the 3rd place at Strade Bianche removed after a glucose monitor was spotted on her arm during the race. That meant there wasn't a top 10 result until the Pan American Games in October 2023. That was all put to bed very early on in 2024 with an epic solo break at Omloop van het Hageland, stage wins at Trofeo Ponente in Rosa, and another solo break win at the Vuelta Femenina. She took another win at the US Nationals and then did a shorter break but still a notable solo win at the Olympics, taking a gold medal. She then wrapped that up with a second gold on the track in the team pursuit. Gold medal on the road was particularly impressive given she hadn't actually been picked for the race until a late withdrawal saw her called up to the team. Faulkner's profile jumps hugely as a result of the results in Paris and marked a huge return to the top of women's cycling. Gigante had a breakout season as far back as 2019 when she won the Aussie national title as a 19-year-old, but it's taken a long time after that for her to really get the chance to deliver on that early promise. Bad luck has always been on the horizon, with a big result often coming with injuries not far away afterwards. 2021 season saw a bad crash at Flèche Wallonne, break a collarbone, fibula and elbow all in one go. Then when fit again, she suffered myopericarditis, probably awful pronunciation. Her impressive solo win followed at Immaculée Nafaroko in 2022. Also saw her crash into a car mid-race and suffer a concussion that affected the rest of that season. She then didn't race in 2023 into August before she changed teams late on for 2024. That paid off instantly with a win on Wollonga Hill and the GC victory at the Tour Down Under. A massive return to where all Aceras fans knew she could be if only she had a bit of luck. 7th in GC at the Tour de France Femmes also meant the Aussie delivered at the highest levels too. Hopefully that was going to give her a chance to build up for a stronger 2025, but she's had to have an operation this off-season for her iliac artery and probably won't be around again racing until around July-August 2025. Unfortunately the bad luck just seems to follow Sarah. Ruth Edwards retired at the end of the 2021 season, one where she took wins at Brabantse-Pijl and the Tour de l'Ardèche, 2nd place at Navarra and San Sebastian, and generally still looked well on top of her game. Similar to how Grace Brown retired at the end of this season, the lure of home, back on another continent, family and a better balance would see a step away from road racing in Europe to race gravel instead back home in the US. A couple of years later in 2024, refreshed from the travel demands, Edwards made a return for Human Powered Health. Pretty much picked up where she left off with a GC win in the Touring and Ladies Tour, which was slightly aided by a train stop in the peloton on stage 1, but it was impressive how she closed it out with a time trial. 4th at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race back in January set the tone for the season, and the American never looked back. At the start of the season, you needed a long memory for the last time that Kim LaCourte was a fixture in the European peloton. Back in 2016, she was signed up to be as Kaya Durango with Mavi Garcia, but didn't do too much in the races that season. She would still turn up high in the UCI rankings in the intervening years thanks to things like the Mauritius National Championships and the African Conti Champs. She started to set a couple of mountain bike results in 2023 before AG Insurance Soudal decided to give her a go on the road in 2024. Putting some big pulls to guide Sarah Gigante to the GC win in the Tour Down Under despite the windy conditions, and then took her first top 10 Women's World Tour result at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. She built on that with a consistent spring, which included 9th at Brugge de Panne, 10th at Paris-Roubaix, before moving things up another gear. 4th in GC at the Volta Ciclista a Catalunya showed that she could climb well before the top result of the season. She won the final stage of the Giro d'Italia Women. Full circle moment for the Mauritian, who had DNF'd that race on stage 2 back in 2016. I can remember standing at the top of the Kemmelberg during the 2019 Gent-Wevelgem, watching on the big screen as the women's race finished miles away in that town. On that day, Kirsten Wild beat her young challenger Levena Wiebes, but on the third step on the podium was Letizia Paternoster having her first breakthrough women's World Tour result. The rest of that season was strong too, before the 2020-2021 seasons were devoted almost entirely to the Olympics. By the 2022 season, she'd been pushed down the order at Trek Segafredo, with Elisa Balsamo, the big team leader, in that spot. Paternoster changed teams in 2023, and you could just start to see the promise of that 2019 season start to come out again, albeit with a packed team of sprinters to contend with. That's why it was fun to see her back to her best again in 2024. Good Classics campaign saw her finish third in Dwars-door-Vlaanderen, fourth in the Ronde van Drenthe, and ninth in the Tour of Flanders. And the British racers moved her up a level, just missing out on a maiden Women's World Tour win in Llandudno by the thinnest of margins against Lotte Kopecky, and she was really starting to knock on the door again. She took her first win in 5 years at the Tour de Gatineau in Canada, rounding off a great comeback year. Neve Bradbury was another rider who had a breakthrough, only to drop a bit when trying to follow that up in subsequent years. Bradbury started to come to the fore in her second season at Canyon-Schram in 2022, winning the youth jersey at the Tour of Scandinavia, on her way to 5th overall there with a strong climb up Norefjell. She was second in the youth jersey at the Giro d'Onne that year too, as a young climbing talent looked to be in the offing. 2023 was more of a struggle though, outside of 7th in GC at the Thuringen Ladies Tour and 5th at the infamous Tour de Pyrenees. There wasn't too much to call on results wise. Fast forward to 2024 and Bradbury had moved on a whole bunch. Third in the opening race at the Tour Down Under, and then second on Jebel Hafeet in the UAE Tour behind Lotte Kopecky. It was a great start to the season, and her next form peak will see the Aussie take her first Women's World Tour wins at the Tour de Suisse and Giro d'Italia Women, on her way to second and third in GC at those races. The Giro stage win on Blockhouse was particularly impressive as she rode the likes of Kopecky and Longo Borghini off her wheel on the Queen stage of the race. For Ellen van Dijk, this one is obvious. She sat out the 2023 season on maternity leave before joining back up with Little Trek for 2024. It wasn't a perfect return with lower than hopeful results at the Olympics and World's Time Trials, but there were more than enough results to suggest that van Dijk isn't too far away from her best again. Wins in the time trials at Omloop van Borselen, Tour de Normandie and Vuelta Extremadura put her back in the conversation against the clock, and that helped to take good GC results at Normandy, where she was third, the Simac Ladies Tour, where she was fifth, and the Vuelta Extremadura, where she was sixth. She was also sixth at the Paris-Roubaix FAM, and that will have been a quietly pleasing result for the Dutch rider, a small improvement on a 2022 result in northern France. Ingvild Gåskjenn has been around for a lot longer than you sometimes realise. Often in the shadow of Susanna Anderson early on in her career, that balance is potentially now shifting. A great 2022 season at Coupe High-Tech Products didn't quite match up with the first season at a Women's World Tour team in 2023. Those consistent top 10 finishes on the smaller team weren't replicated once she had to perform more of an assist role to the fast finishers on JK Aluda. The Norwegian was able to carve out a bigger role this season, excelling in sprints at the end of lumpy stages, and naturally there was that third place on the podium at Amstel Gold Race. Her expression upon finding out she'd made the podium was one of the pictures of the season, with other big results at the Vuelta Femenina and the European Championships too. She's moving to Uno X in 2025 and will be looking to push to another level again. 2024 was a storming return to form for Pauliena Rooijakkers, and she made the most of more opportunities on her new Phoenix de Koning team. She'd been building up throughout 2022, which was her then career year, which included her first win for 5 years at the Durango race during an impressive Spain month. So it was a surprise when she didn't really kind of click or push on a bit more in 2023. She regressed a bit more in terms of results. In 2024, the stall was set early on with 6th on Jebel Hafeet and then 6th on the Mur de Huy, Flèche Wallonne. Consistent Vuelta Femenina saw her take 9th in GC, but everything was building up for the other major tours in women's cycling. 4th at the Giro and then 3rd at the Tour, which were great results. She also took 2nd on Alpe d'Huez, almost hanging on to Demi Vollering along the way as her rival fought for the GC victory. She set a new level in 2024 and hopefully she can match that again next season. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get more content from Pro Cycling UK on YouTube.